throne of heaven was the object that caused a war in heaven. God sat on the throne. Lucifer, the anointed cherub, attempted to usurp the throne. In his pride, he rose up to take the worship and the seat that belonged to God alone. Pride will steal worship. Humility worships. Recognizing who God is, recognizing him as Lord, as sovereign, the omnipotent one, the omniscient one, the creator of the heavens and the earth. By his very nature, he deserves to be worshiped. And the enemy of your soul, in his pride, rose up against the throne to steal the worship and the seat that belonged to God. And what he does in humanity now is still attempt to rob God of worship when he tries to do it through you and I. He will throw things at our life that will cause us to perhaps not want to worship. He will cause pride in your heart to be unable to bow before him, to be unable to lift a hand, to be unable to lift a shout. The author of pride at times rises up in our hearts and won't allow us to enthrone God with our praise. And yet, at other things, we will reserve our worship for things of this world. We will reserve our worship for people of this world. But every time that we voluntarily say, I'm going to worship, every time we voluntarily lift up a voice, bow a knee, humble our hearts, and worship our God, we are enthroning him above everything else in our life. There's always something trying to rise to that level. There's always something trying to get our eyes off the throne of God. And we settle ourselves. And in humility, we come before him and we say, God, you sit on the throne. You are the one enthroned. You are the one. You are the one. And what's happening in this house right now is there's a stirring in our hearts. And the stirring in the hearts, there are those who are enthroning him. There are those who are in a battle. There are those who are saying, but Lord, I would worship you, but this is going on. You worship him in spite of what's going on. You don't worship him because everything's good. You worship him because he's good. You don't worship him because you don't stop worshiping because something bad happened this week. You worship him in spite of something bad happening this week. You don't worship him because everything in the world is perfect. You worship him because he sits above the world. You don't worship him this morning because your marriage is perfect. You do it in spite of your marriage not being perfect. You don't worship him this morning because your child is perfect this morning. You do it in spite of where he is, where she is. John was given an open window into heaven where he could see the ongoings of heaven. What he saw was the throne. He saw the throne. He saw the worship around the throne. He saw the angels bow. He saw the elders bow. He saw worship around the throne. And how many know this morning that it's not something that just happens in heaven? It's you and I enjoying with heaven as we enthrone him. We recognize his greatness. We recognize his lordship. And I will say to you this morning, sir, it is time to bow your heart. It is time to lift up your hand. It is time to shout, because your God sits on a throne. Humble hearts worship. Pride sits itself above the one who's to be worshiped. Pride sits itself above worship. But humility causes worship to flow. Come on and sing it again. Sing it again. Sing it, church. Lift up your hands. Lift up your voice. Enthrone him upon the throne that he's already on. Enthrone him on the throne of your heart. Enthrone him on the throne of your mind. Your mind does not roll over you. Come on,